Next battle, we have Bluish Flame Liberators on DS side, aka the reason I'm not in this team battle, going up against Dan, who won the last match. Liberators actually did get a stride unit in the latest update. Galloping Golden Knight, Campbell. And Campbell's ability, when his attack hits, you can check the top 5 cards of your deck, search for any one card, call it to a circle, doesn't have to be open, and then the rest go back and are shuffled. It's a Gold Paladin that shuffles. It checks the top 5, which is actually the most any unit has ever checked for a superior call. It gives you a shuffle, and also the unit that is called with that ability gains 2,000 power and a standing. So it actually gives you the ability to do a 4th battle with Gold Paladin, if you set it up to do that. Grade 2, Dan is using McCart in the rear, Blaster Dark Revenger as the Vanguard. Shotaro no guards, the Vanguard attack, guard at the rear. Rides Escrad, or Escrado. Attacks the Vanguard. If Dan lets this hit, yep. So now Shotaro gets to counterblast, check his top card, and if it's a Gold Paladin, which it should be, he gets a superior call. Going on to grade 3, we have I don't know if anyone can hear what's happening in the background, but this is why I had a mic. And if it didn't come up in the recording, then I probably have no reason to be saying anything, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, Shotaro let Mordred Phantom hit, so he gets 2 sword breakers and 2 draws for it. This is what you call the this is basically a plus that's not a plus, because even though he got the Soul Blast and draw 2, those aren't Revengers, so he's gonna have to replace them if he wants to actually retire stuff for Revenger skills, and that is not. I have to talk to Shotaro now because I don't think he knows that Gold Paladin have a stride. I don't think he knows that Gold Paladin have a stride, because this would be the perfect time to use it. Could have hit, could have checked his top 5, could have gotten a superior call out of it. Would have been awesome. Just simply awesome. But no, that's not what's happening here. Shotaro tries to get an early kill on Makar. It does not work. Mostly because Dan knew to put the trigger that he got from the damage check onto Makar just to help protect it. Dan doesn't have to care if he gets damaged or not. For one, he has 4 in drop anyway for the sake of Legion, and he's running a deck that wants to be at limit break. So either way you look at it, he wants damage. Shotaro unfortunately does not, but he has it anyway. But the other thing he has is he has Legion. But unfortunately for him, there is a Blue Flame Liberated Prominence Core in the damage zone. And then a big difference between Prominence Core and Prominence Glare is that Core wants himself and his mate, Liberator of Eglavale, in the deck, so that he can Superior Call them from the deck, and he can get his plus 3k in power from that. And obviously, if they're in the damage zone or in hand, that can't happen. He gets Aglavale from it, which is really good. Not only does it give his Vanguard plus 3,000 power in a crit, but Aglavale specifically can counterblast 1, check the top 3, and call something. He gets Prominence Core as well. He can call that, or he can call Yosef to get an extra card in hand, and he chooses for the extra power. It means that Prominence Core is now at plus 6,000 power, plus 2 critical. And Corona Goal behind the Vanguard is also plus 6,000 power, as is that Bruno in the rear. Now, if Shotaro is running stand triggers, I would attack with the Prominence Core side first. Shotaro chooses not to do that. And Dan does not have a perfect guard, so to guard this, that's 21, 31, 41 is a 1 pass. That's a 2. So if Shotaro double triggers, nope. And not a trigger at all. Attacks with the rear, and that 18 should be at McCart. To be honest, I would have done 22 to McCart just to make him guard for it that much. And he doesn't guard for it at all, he just lets it die. Dan doing stride again. Decides not to do the counterblast skill, so it's just 32 to the Vanguard. I could tell by the way he restood it that he didn't want to give it the automatic power. Gets 2 draw triggers in the triple check. So now Dan does have a big hand, but at the same time they are all 5k shields. And that is something to remember, because it is important. Now, Shotaro takes that attack and gets a heal trigger. I was going to say I don't know if he should take that or not, all things considered, but the fact that it was a heal trigger means it's all okay in the end. He doesn't want to have his damage too high for when the break ride happens, because if he gets himself into a situation like that, he could actually be really hosed for the late game. Calls Percival from the top 4 check. He technically didn't have a choice. The Vanguard still hitting for 28, a good number. And Dan doesn't feel a need to guard. No triggers for Shotaro again. And both these units only need a 10k guard. Except for that one because it hit the rear, which Dan just lets die. So now Dan does have break ride. He also doesn't have a single Revenger on field, so he'd have to commit. So even with the break ride, he'd have to commit a lot of his hand to get. He'd have to commit 2 more cards from his hand just to get enough Revengers to do the skill. And that's if he doesn't want to replace any of those sword breakers. Gets Blaster Dart, gives him an unflip. Doesn't counterblast 2 to retire a unit because then he wouldn't have counterblast 2 for the Legion skill. 16 to the Vanguard first. Shotaro guards as he can. 23k to the Vanguard. Shotaro doesn't guard and gets a trigger. It's going to help with guarding the other 2, but it's at break ride status, so it's 10,000 power stronger than it should be for a Legion especially, and not only that, but a Legion that gains 2,000 power when it attacks the Vanguard. It means a lot. Shotaro drops a Quintet Wall. 51k guard, no pass. It was no pass before he added that 1 unit. So if his guarding becomes a problem because he did that, then nope, perfect guard. Speaking of perfect guards, Dan got one in his second twin drive. Shotaro replaces replaced Marin for Bruno, then was about to use Aglavale, but that would have given him 1 less top check. Doesn't matter because he's going to call that Prominence Core. Nope, he decides to call Yosef instead. He understands that his opponent got a perfect guard, so his Vanguard isn't hitting anyway. Which is a smart move. Give yourself more hand for later. Attacks with the Vanguard first, completely forgetting the fact that he does run stand triggers. Or at least I think, yes he does. Because he has one in the damage zone. Dhan perfect guards in case of critical. Speaking of criticals, there one is. Gives it all to Fallon. And Fallon is going in for an attack. Takes 2 10Ks to block. I would end my turn now, and Shotaro does. If he didn't end his turn, then Dhan would have the ability to ride Phantom Blaster over Phantom Blaster and get the counter and have the counter blast 2 he needed in order to do the restand again and end it. Dhan rides over anyway, so it's very likely that he has a Blaster Dark Revenger in hand, which he is going to use to get to unflip one of his damage. If he does, Shotaro's going to have to guard 4 attacks, including 2 Vanguard attacks for 22k or more, with only 6 cards in hand and 1 intercept, and he can't afford even 1 damage. It appears that Dhan didn't have any Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss in the deck when he sought the mate. If Shotaro wanted to be a rule shark, he would have the ability to just call him out and say that you can't do that. You have to commit to the fact that you put the 4 in. I wouldn't condone that, to be perfectly honest. Attacks with the rear guard. So the rear guard, because Doran came in unboosted. Attacks with the Vanguard, which only needs 5k. And does Shotaro have guard for this? This is a 1 pass. Gets criticaled. And Shotaro loses at that. Good game. Dhan wins this one. And we're going on to the next one. Doran's turn.